Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Ultimate SmackDown Rumble between the Big Three of Serials.
Shoot, wrong channel. Welcome back, everybody, to our game show. Xbox, you are up. Please choose a category.
I'm gonna go ahead and choose Halo Lore for 200.
Are you planning on buying the other two contestants on stage?
No.
How unfortunate. PlayStation, please choose a category.
Thanks, Bob. Can I please have Ratchet and Clank quotes for 400?
Your player base is projected to run out of money in 17 days. What are you gonna do?
Have them buy the PlayStation Portal?
Ooh, too bad. Nintendo, you are up. Please choose a category.
Wow, can't believe I haven't picked this one yet. Let's go with Mario Power-Ups for 600.
Our world is plagued with crisis. Everywhere you look, there is war, famine, fire, and death. How will you save our souls from never-ending torture and despair?
Oh my god. Release the Switch 2?
You are correct, sir. You have won our game show. Woo!
Now I gotta make the Switch 2. You guys ready? Lobby up.
Hey guys, lobby up.
GG's, lobby up.
Dude, we gotta lobby up.
Lobby up.
Hey, should we lobby up?
Yo, lobby up.
Lobby up, y'all.
Hey, let's grab a beer. Lobby up.
Welcome everybody to another episode. You've got your hosts, Matt and Lewis here.
How's it going, everybody?
Today, we're going to get right into a topic that has been an age-old topic for any gamer, whether you are here because you play on your smartphone or your PC or all of the consoles that we have at our disposal. Everybody who is in gaming is aware of the console war. And, you know, it's gotten to a point now in our day and age where it's like, why is this even still existing? Some people are so fed up with it. The people that are still invested in the console war, my one question for you is why? Like why why are you putting all of your time and energy toward this? As somebody who supports the furtherment of technology and whatnot, I do appreciate the drive of competition, but it gets to a point where it gets a little bit old. So we're going to be talking about a lot of that kind of stuff today. But we have some updates on kind of like the general environment that we want to talk about first for each of these big three, if you will.
Yes, and to echo what you were saying, yeah, if you're still invested in the console wars, it's time to stop, guys. It really, it's not 1990s anymore. Like it's not Nintendo versus Sega. And it was fun for a while, but I think it should have stopped being fun when we all turn into adults. That's when it should have stopped. And for even us, you and I, it actually continued a little further past that. You know, for the longest time, you were Team PlayStation, I was Team Xbox, and I think now, as an adult, I'm just Team Gaming. And I know that sounds so cheesy.
You're very Switzerland now.
Yeah, very much so. It's cheesy, but it's also, I feel we're in a weird time where I feel like the whole market of gaming is about to change in ways that we're still trying to comprehend. And I just want the base integrity of video games to stay intact. If that means I have to give my money to certain companies and not give it to others, I don't care if it's PlayStation, Xbox, or Nintendo. I will do what I must and speak with my wallet.
Well, that exactly. You vote with your dollar. So the thing is, we will continue to receive what we continue to pay for. So if something is being offered and you're not happy with it, don't buy it. It's really that simple. You can absolutely listen to your favorite podcasters. Hello. We can talk to you about games that are out right now. You can listen to your favorite YouTubers, go to your favorite news outlets. Whatever it is, there are options that are absolutely 100% free if you're not sure whether you want a game. Let's talk about some of the things that have been happening with these gaming companies, bro, because we're not fans of the console war, but regardless, it persists in its own chaotic way. And there's been a lot to talk about in gaming news recently. You've got PlayStation, who is not known for having these massive multiplayer games, come out with the Helldivers sequel, and it has been getting absolute rave reviews. I've been seeing so much talk online about this game being kind of like even proposed as like the console war ender, like being the peace treaty, because PlayStation fans are loving it so much they wish they could play with their Xbox buddies. And I'm seeing Xbox like fanboys being like, man, like this is what Halo could have even been if they received the right development. So like, what have you been seeing about it?
So Helldivers, first of all, looks fantastic, and it's definitely a game that I would love for us to play and kind of talk about on the podcast. So do expect a possible Helldivers 2 video in the future. But overall, the game looks fantastic. People are loving it. You love to see it. And honestly, this is the first time in recent memories that I can see PlayStation having a banging multiplayer game.
Right.
Please correct me if I'm wrong, but I quite literally cannot think of a multiplayer of this. I can't think of a multiplayer game that PlayStation has been a part of that's just taken off the way Helldivers 2 has.
No, I can't think of one. I mean, the only thing I'm thinking of right now actually is how this is way better than anything they could have projected with this Marvel multiplayer thing that was leaked. Like, I already feel like this is gonna be the answer compared to that. But anyway, I digress. But I've heard really good things, and actually, just a friend who I was talking to did not know that I have a gaming podcast, and was just telling me like a fun story about the game, and was just ending what he was telling me. He was like, yeah man, it's just a good game to lobby up with friends with. And I was like, I like what you just said there. I like that. It probably is a good game to lobby up.
Like and subscribe.
But yeah, dude, I totally agree. I think that this could be like their first real stab into multiplayer that can be respected, and it's such a duality, right? You're like, oh cool, they have this exclusive game that has this potential, but then there's also the potential of like, should they expand into cross-platform?
Yeah, which I know, and I believe it was Phil Spencer that said this. Somebody can fact check me, but he was even confused why Helldivers 2 passed on the Xbox. He literally was quoted saying like, what's up with that? Why'd you skip us? Who knows what happened behind the scenes, but it was a good call for PlayStation. And according to the community, Helldivers was always a good game. Helldivers 1 was good, so everybody was anticipating Helldivers 2 to be just as great. This isn't some sleeper hit. People were expecting it to be good.
Right.
And there is rumors in the rumor mill that Helldivers 2 will potentially come to Xbox, which, like you said, a lot of people are actually happy about that versus upset. Right. The people in the PlayStation community want more players to play with them, so the more the merrier. And what I'm led to believe is a lot of the in-game events that are happening happen in absolute real time. So they need the extra people to help with these crazy missions that one developer is putting out for them. It's crazy.
Right. Yeah, no, exactly. So a lot to anticipate there. And then as far as this whole, we're going to get into a lot of subscription talk today, because that kind of has been the name of the game since Xbox has changed the environment with Game Pass. But one of the big complaints, obviously, has been what's been coming to PlayStation's subscription services. Is it worth it to upgrade? All that kind of stuff. And recently, although they are sticking to their guns with not coming out with their first party exclusives on day one, they have been making more of an effort, it appears, to come out with some third-party titles on day one into their subs. So the Tales of Kenzera Zhao game, which got generally very favorable response, came out on the PlayStation Plus Extra on day one, and they just announced that Animal Well, which is Donkey's publishing company Big Mode's first iteration into the whole gaming environment, it's coming day one on PlayStation Plus Extra. So it's good to see them putting more investment and more of an effort into their subscription services.
And it's been much needed. They've always kind of, which is crazy to say this in any capacity, that PlayStation is behind Xbox in anything, because they've been the leaders for such a long time. And I feel this go around for this generation of gaming, and in this current moment, they're still struggling, in my opinion, of course, to get in the same level of value that Game Pass has given. And again, that is subjective, of course, but they're still catching up with the day and date for their exclusives, which I've always said with you, if PlayStation released their first party exclusives day and date on their service, I would subscribe to PlayStation Plus if they did day and date. I believe that if they did that, that would completely change the game. And I think it could even launch them into the absolute number one subscription service in terms of not only subscribers, but value. Really, just value, the value.
If they had all of their first party titles released day and date and also available at all times, yeah, that would just be a massive increase in the value. And we are going to get more into their subscription services in a bit. But there is also lots to talk about with Xbox. They have a hugely anticipated game, Hellblade 2, coming out in just a couple weeks, which the internet's still blowing up about. It seems like as we get closer to the date, they're just getting more and more hyped about it.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm a Hellblade guy. I played Hellblade 1. I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was a game that I knew nothing about, and I was just in GameStop hanging out, and I'm like, oh, what's this? Oh, it got a lot of rewards. Oh, it's $2. I'm going to go ahead and buy this and play it. And it was the best $2 I ever spent, because
what a
now
steal.
now that Hellblade 2 is coming out, Hellblade 1 is like going for what, $25?
Yeah, dude, that was a steal. You absolutely got a banging deal for that, because yeah, you can't find it for less than $20 even on freaking eBay right now. So
yeah, so props to you, GameStop. Don't go out of business. I love you.
they're fighting for their life.
Yeah, they are. But honestly, with Hellblade 2 coming out, Game Pass is looking pretty good, pretty solid, pretty healthy. We have a showcase next month. I say we like I'm still part of Team Xbox. I am not. I'm Team Gaming.
Isn't your name Lewis Spencer?
But it looks like Xbox is going to have a June 9th Xbox showcase, and it looks like for the first time, they're going to directly start using Call of Duty as their first party game. It is now a first party Xbox game. I'm not going to say exclusive, because I highly doubt that, and I think there's contracts saying that they're not allowed to have
For 10 years, right?
yeah, something like that. I don't really care. But regardless, it's Call of Duty, it's huge, and they're getting a dedicated direct in June, which is a big deal, because everybody's been waiting since the acquisition. What are you guys going to do? You just spent billions and billions of dollars on one of the biggest, if not the biggest, game developer in the industry, and it is now May 1st at the time of recording, 2024, and this is the first that I've seen with them flexing that muscle.
Yeah. So with that said, bro, I think that there's huge pressure on this showcase. I think that so many eyes are going to be like, okay, you got what you wanted. You've got your acquisition. It went through. What are you going to do with it? And I expect personally to see some updates on the games that they've already announced. Like, I'm big into action adventures. I'm big into RPGs. I'm really hoping to get into Fable, and I'm hoping that they can give us some updates on games like that they've already announced that people want to see fleshed out. And then going further into these acquisitions, we need to see what they're going to be doing with Diablo, with World of Warcraft. What are they doing with all these huge games? The world is looking for an answer now. You're talking directly to your community that you're trying so hard to build. What are you doing?
Yes, and the pressure is definitely on. You're absolutely right with that. To be honest, we're going to have to just wait and see. I know that they were stuck with all that litigation and all that crazy court business, and even when it was approved, they still tried to like stop the merger. It was crazy. It
was.
looks like the dust has settled, everything is set, the stage is theirs. This is their time to stop being third place. This is their time to stop even being second. They have the potential, and emphasis on potential, to be the market leader.
Right.
They just need to pull the trigger and do it correctly, and they cannot flop this.
No.
I look at Starfield as it was touted to be the game of the generation. It was supposed to be this huge deal, and ultimately I came out of it with a positive experience, but it definitely wasn't the game that they wanted it to be.
No.
And their excuse was, well, Starfield was already in development before the Bethesda acquisition, so that they had an excuse for it flopping for the most part. There is no more excuses. Bethesda is fully first party. Activision Blizzard is fully first party. It is directly under Microsoft's control. The time is now.
Correct.
To atone for the sins of the Xbox One generation.
Yes, and start figuring out how they're going to get these games in the hands of studios that have the know-how, and let them do what they want to do. This is not a Xbox Connect project that you hand to Rare. This is not that whole situation. You let them make the games that they make. And while game developers, when given an opportunity to make a great game, they're gonna do what they can with what they're given, but let them make the game they want to make. And
absolutely.
That's going to be the key to Xbox's success here. When you have a new Bethesda game coming out, let them make the game they want to make, that the community wants. Don't try to. This isn't the time to be experimenting on established IPs into new adventures. Make the game the players want, and
absolutely.
Then you can start experimenting. Establish yourself first.
If you look at games like Palworld, and heck, even bigger than that, Baldur's Gate, they prove that if you just let developers do what they want and let them just work with their creative juices, you can have a hit. You can have a hit out of nowhere. Baldur's Gate 3, the build up and the lead up to that, and again, just like Helldivers 2, a lot of people said, oh, I knew Baldur's Gate 3 was going to be a good game. I remember before Baldur's Gate 3 came out, my brother Andres was like, oh, I'm not playing Starfield, I'm going to be playing Baldur's Gate 3. And I'm like, Baldur's Gate 3? I don't even know what that... I've never even heard of that. And he's like, oh yeah, you need to play that. It's going to be amazing. He called it months and months before. So it had fans coming in. But then you look at a game like Palworld, where it literally came out of nowhere. Literally, it was just Pokemon with guns, and they rolled with it. They had fun with it. They created this awesome game that millions and millions of people were enjoying. Those two are the best examples for a studio with money and a studio without money, what they can do when they're left to their own devices.
Right.
And Xbox just needs to continue to let that happen and keep the talent. Keep the talent. It doesn't matter if you have the name of the studio or the IPs, if all your talent leaves. So
exactly. Really good points, bro. That's what we're looking forward to. To be honest, dude, we've gotten our notes here that we definitely want to talk about this Xbox handheld that they've been proposing. I don't even know if they're going to have time to talk about it at this showcase. That's probably going to be like way future.
So what I've been hearing is people are getting like surveyed questions like, how interested would you be in an Xbox handheld? And for me, if I got that survey, they didn't give it to me, and I'm mad about that. But if they asked me, heck yeah, give me that handheld. Heck yeah. To be honest, if you would have asked me this question 5 years ago, I probably would say heck no. We don't need that. But what I've seen with the Steam Deck and the success that it's brought, it could be potentially a game changer. Imagine just a Game Pass machine. I'd be stoked with that. And their streaming technology to the phones and to all these different screens, it's only getting better and better and better. Personally, I would like it to natively play games that you can download. I don't want another streaming device to have the potential to do that and actually make it work. As of now, what I've seen, Xbox could handle something like that, but we're not ready for a world of 100% streaming on handheld devices. So let me download my games and take them on the go. That is enough for me to be interested, especially with how you and I do this podcast and we're constantly working, if I could just pull out my Xbox handheld on my break
Absolutely.
and play for 30 minutes, that would be incredibly awesome and incredibly convenient.
And that has been the huge success seen with the Switch, who Nintendo have been the kings of handhelds for so long with the Game Boys, the DS, and eventually they killed that whole line by just combining their home console into being the handheld or home console. And Xbox wants a piece now that they have handheld games that are mobile games, that they have games that if you want to play your home console game on the go, there is a huge market for that. Like you said, adults aren't always wanting to only play their games at home. People travel, people sit on buses and airplanes, and we're, like you said, we're not at a point where you can just literally stream anywhere in the world that you want to play. We're just not at that point yet. That's not going to be for a while. So when you see like your PlayStation portals, right? This was a good idea that did not get executed fully to its potential. The PlayStation Portal has generally favorable reviews if you can fit the parameters of its limitations. I've seen generally people really enjoy having it if they're, say, a mom or dad that has kids that are always on the TV and they want them to have the big screen just so that way they can, be entertained and captivated. They can also be on the couch with them playing their game. And that's again, another selling point for the Switch. The big limitation here is that you have to be on the same Wi-Fi as your PS5. It's a huge limitation. Like you said, if we can't download these games and take them away from home, you're not really creating you're not really creating a true handheld environment where it's completely untethered. You are literally tethered to your home Wi-Fi with your PS5. So yes, it's handheld, but I always consider this like it's a on the toilet device. You're still at home, you want to keep gaming, but you're not in front of your TV, so you got your PlayStation Portal. Like, I'll admit, I've played my fair share of Nintendo Switch on the toilet. So
absolutely. Absolutely. Many have cried at my presence in Super Smash Bros. While I was on the toilet. I definitely 3-stocked you while I was on the toilet. Not you in particular. Oh, maybe you, but
hey,
many have fallen.
So it's clear that when we think of a handheld device, if Xbox is going to get into this, it's got to be something that has the true untethered element. You have to have that Nintendo Switch capacity where either it's a physical game you plug in, or you have to be able to download it natively to the device. Otherwise, you are totally limiting the capacity of its potential.
Yeah, which, to be honest, I don't see why Xbox would make a whole handheld console based around streaming if they already can stream all these games to your phone. I played Hades on my iPhone with Game Pass streaming.
Oh, that's awesome.
And it played perfectly fine. I wouldn't recommend the touchscreen controller. I used my Xbox controller and connected it to my phone. But why make a handheld console that's only streaming when you can stream to literally any device that has Wi-Fi?
Absolutely.
This has to be a native, more Steam Deck-like game than any.
Agreed.
And only time will tell. Hopefully, again, they don't fumble it. They are in a position where they can finally come out of the shadows of the Xbox One era generation. They just can't fumble the ball. They need to just keep moving forward.
So, speaking of the success of the Switch and its ability to be the handheld that players want, it seems that Nintendo is totally resting on the success of the Switch for just a little bit too long here. To our listeners who have heard some of our other episodes, you might have caught a time or two that Lewis and I have an ongoing bet onto when the Switch 2 will come out. I say it's going to be at the end of this year. He thinks it's going to be at the beginning of next year. And for the first time, I will admit right now, live on air, I'm a little nervous. Because when you look at the console history, right, you think about every major console has come from Nintendo, the NES, the SNES, the N64. When you line them all up in order, it's pretty surprising how on the dot Nintendo has been with releasing them every 5 years. The only time they released a console that was more away from the 5-year mark was the Wii to Wii U, and that was a 6-year gap. But here we are, the Switch has come out over 7 years ago.
That's wild.
And we haven't even gotten an official announcement on this on the next iteration of, who knows if it's even going to be a Switch 2, quote unquote, right? It could be something totally different. I would not put it past Nintendo to completely revamp it. I would be shocked, and I would hope that they were improving upon something, but it seems they kind of have struck gold with this hybrid handheld home console. So I don't know, man. Like, I really expect them to announce it within the coming months.
So what I've been seeing about the Switch 2 is it's going to be more, it's not going to be a giant generational leap. It's going to be more like, and as much as the NES to the SNES is a massive jump from 8-bit to 16-bit, Nintendo seems, or at least the insiders who get this information, they want to temper everyone's expectations that it's going to be more of a small leap forward than a giant leap.
If that's the case, I feel like a much better comparison they could have used is the Wii to Wii U.
That's actually a really good point.
Wii and Wii U, it's the same actual name verbiage. They're calling it the Switch something. They could keep Switch in the name.
Switch U. give everyone PTSD.
Oh my gosh. So I think that, that's a probably better comparison, because in that sense, they're keeping the same type of expectation for the community.
And again, Nintendo has been so tight-lipped about all of this that we're having to take at face value what these leakers, what these insiders are saying. Ultimately, give me a better powered Switch that can handle higher performing games. There's rumors that it will be on a PS4 level, Xbox Series X level, or not Series X, Xbox One X. Sorry.
Damn. Even the Xbox fanboy can't even get the names right.
True, not gonna lie. But they're saying that the Switch 2 will be more of a last generation type of power. That's fine if you can give me games that can take advantage of that in the style of Nintendo, because
right.
Ultimately what Nintendo has always been the developers. That's
Correct.
Their biggest strength. And yes, PlayStation has some awesome developers, first party and second party, but Nintendo just never misses, man. They just never do with those first party lineups. So give me that on a good powered console and I'm happy.
That's why these 7-year-old games are still $60. It drives me crazy, man. But you're touching on something huge for me here, and that's the fact that each of the big three are guilty of this. But when 2020 happened, obviously there were supply shortages. I totally understand that. I empathize with you there. But just because you have a hard time with making your console or producing the amount of units you want to have ready to go, that doesn't mean that you stop your software development.
Yep.
So my headcanon here has been, where is a Mario game? Because now we're getting into the same type of approach as we did with the Nintendo consoles. If you stack up the 3D Marios in their history from Mario 64 all the way down to Odyssey, the biggest gap is from Mario Galaxy 2 to Mario Odyssey, which took 7 years. Here we are, 7 years. And just like the Switch comparison to our newest iteration of the console, we're unprecedented in time between release. And again, I get that games are becoming more massive. They take longer to develop.
But that's never been an issue for Nintendo. That's never been an issue, ever.
Yes, some type of balance has to be struck here, because while I do get that, I understand, what are you going to do as we get into the next generation, when we have the Xbox Flaming Horse, whatever they want to call it, and they have the PS6, obviously, and then the Nintendo Switch 3 or whatever? What are you going to do with your software? Are you going to spend the entire life cycle of your console not coming out something? Or are you going to let your console die and then just only make software? What's going to happen? And at that point, are you still going to make excuses? I think that we get to a point with the current climate of gaming that we're allowing these games to be in this life cycle of development for way too long. Everything gets caught in development hell, and then it gets released, and the public has so much pressure on it that it doesn't live up to the standard.
Yeah, the Switch 2 expectations are kind of bonkers, dude. People want a Switch 2 to be like a PC. Like they
Right.
want it to be like a, granted, they could, Nintendo has the money. Nintendo puts all this money towards their theme park endeavors. Like, put it towards your hardware. You know, people want it to be a walking Steam Deck, or not a walking Steam Deck. That, granted, that'd be pretty cool. I don't even have to hold it; just walk with me. But they want it to be a Steam Deck, and they could. I don't see any indication that Nintendo couldn't do that, but they continue to not do that, and I've never understood that. That's something that has started since the GameCube era, that they never care about it being overpowered. They just want good games. That's fine, but you are now competing with Steam Decks, and you are now going to be competing with an Xbox handheld.
Yes.
You cannot rest on just your software for much longer before
Right.
people are like, why can't I just play your Mario game on my Xbox handheld or on my Steam Deck? Which some people are already doing that on their Steam
Yeah.
Decks. So they need to really hit the Switch 2 out of the park and make people want to buy it the way they made people want to buy the Switch, because the Switch is about to be the #1 selling console of all time. At the rate that they're going, pushing and waiting for it to die, I could see it happening, man. I see that you're shaking your head no, but I think it could.
So right now, bro, the PS2 sold over 155 million units, and I'm seeing that at this time, the Switch has sold just shy of 140 million. That being said, they also are projecting that they think this year they'll sell 15.5 million, which would literally put them just over what the PS2 is. So now I'm asking myself, are they just doing this to try to have the top selling console of all time?
Yes.
But if that's true, why? Like, just because you have the top selling console of all time, was it worth it? You crossed the finish line, but was it worth it after all?
That's loser talk.
No, actually, loser talk is the Xbox not even being listed for the top 1,
Oh,
2,
absolutely.
3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of them.
I'm on the losing team, baby. I actually, at the end of the day, I'm just as much a Nintendo fanboy. If anything, I stopped being an Xbox fanboy, and I never stopped being a Nintendo fanboy. So I'm winning. But ultimately, yes, I do believe that goal is something that they want, and that explains all the different types of Switches that are being released. The Legend of Zelda one, the Mario one, the Animal Crossing Switch. There's more iterations of Switch with different paint jobs than the GameCube era, which had like blue and black and white and orange. Like,
So
this is crazy.
Yeah, so listen, personally, I don't really think it's going to happen, but if it did, I think that they're really dragging this out for a selfish reason here. Like, I don't really think that this is going to be what they needed. I think it's going to hurt their sales for the next generation.
Do you want to place another bet?
What do you want to bet on?
We can bet another $1, see and see if it'll happen. My money says they'll do it.
Look, I think that they literally can if they drag out the release of the Switch 2. Does it make sense to do that? I think no. But only time will tell.
Yes, as you wear a Nintendo shirt.
Hey, I didn't say I wasn't a fan. I didn't say I wasn't going to buy the Switch 2. I just want the Switch 2. Let's move forward here. We need to get into the way that Microsoft phrased that they are in third place when they were arguing in the legal proceedings for going through this whole Blizzard acquisition. They mentioned that they're behind Sony and Nintendo when it comes to their gaming division, and that was the whole influence to make this acquisition happen. But in these and again, this is from the internet, so you guys can take it with a grain of salt, but what I'm seeing here is Sony in the last fiscal year report, which was last year, covering the 2022 fiscal year. Okay, so it's putting Sony at 26.9 billion, which is insane. Microsoft at 25.1 billion, also insane, and Nintendo at 13.9 billion. So it seems that Microsoft was already starting to generate more revenue in the time that they were trying to acquire Activision Blizzard. And I think this has a lot to do with Game Pass. Obviously, that's not a hot take, but
Yeah.
basically when it comes to this whole subscription environment, it's such a big deal that third-party game publishers are making their own subscription, which, to be honest, I don't think anybody wanted, but they're doing
Yeah.
it anyway,
Yeah.
just because they want a slice of the pie too.
To be honest, and this is going to sound super dramatic and I might upset some people, I believe Game Pass saved Xbox. The trend they were going with the Xbox One and the Xbox One X era, that was the trend that was going to lead them into disaster.
Yeah.
And the Game Pass concept was such a last minute desperate attempt to kind of get themselves back into the good graces of everybody, and it worked. I would say at this moment, this is the healthiest we've seen Xbox in a long time. Not since the 360 era, which was, in many people's opinion, their number one best era ever. I think that the Xbox Series X, because of Game Pass, is creeping up, and it's going to make them profitable again, and it's going to make them stay for the long haul.
Yeah, no, clearly. And again, I'm a huge fan of competition because I think it drives better results for the community. It will allow creative problem solving for developers, so that way they can create the game that players want, but also make more money off of it. Everybody wins. I really do believe that. And so with that, it's influenced PlayStation, and we're going to get into how it seems that Nintendo is still on their own little island, totally blissfully unaware of what's going on. So we actually dug up our Lobby Up research team, us. We tasked our research team with digging up and comparing all of the subscription that you can possibly do with the big three, so that way you guys don't have to. And let me tell you, it's a good amount of stuff to break down. So we're going to throw up on the screen right now the most premium version of what each of these big three has to offer. So with that said, let's talk about comparing the value of what you get from these, right? Obviously, we kind of have the front runner being Game Pass Ultimate, because you get what I call the catalog. When you think about games that come with Game Pass, this is what you get. You get this huge library of first-party games as well as third-party games. You can play with Ultimate on your PC or your console. You can cloud stream. There's a lot to take home there.
Yes, and I actually subscribe to Game Pass Ultimate. To be honest, I don't know anything about the tiers below me because I am a Game Pass Ultimate subscriber.
You don't know anything about those peasants.
Like, listen, guys, I'm kidding. Ultimately, you pay for the one that suits your lifestyle, that suits your wants, that suits your needs. Game Pass Ultimate isn't for everybody, and this is coming from somebody that subscribes to it. Having a PC is awesome with Game Pass Ultimate because I can just switch to my PC and play the catalog on there. If you don't have a PC, that's a whole section of your Game Pass Ultimate that you can't use. But I will say I have used the cloud streaming before on my smartphone. I told you earlier I played Hades on that. The entire catalog being there is a godsend. And now with the Activision Blizzard deal, Game Pass Ultimate is about to get just even more valuable. I just hope to God they don't raise the price any further, because for a long time, I was only paying for a long time, I didn't have to pay. There was this whole cheat code when it first came out that if you paid it in bulk, you could get an extra year free or something. And I wasn't paying for a long time, but now I actually have to pay the $17 a month. So please don't raise it more, Phil.
And that's a good topic to bring up, because I'm noticing, bro, because I don't pay for Game Pass, but I'm noticing that there's not like a multiple months or year-long option through Microsoft.
I've noticed that too. And granted, I didn't even notice it until you brought that up in our research, because I do just pay it monthly at this point. You can go to GameStop and get a card for 3 months, and it's great and fantastic if you want to just do it 3 months at a time. But I feel like at least through the Microsoft Store, you should be able to get that same option. I don't understand the game plan there. I don't know if they're trying to make more money. I don't get it, but ultimately it's just one of those things that you just question and move on from.
Yeah, that being said, you've got the influence on PlayStation here, obviously at play. When this first was announced, I remember reports from PlayStation execs being like, oh, we're never gonna do this, like this is not viable, it's just gonna fall through, and then it didn't. And then they're like, oh crap, we gotta do something. And then their response initially being included for PlayStation Essential is what they're calling it, like the lowest tier.
Yeah,
there was a collection of first party games that are great games, and even some third party ones like Fallout 4 that were included, and you basically just got these for free. If you paid for PlayStation Plus Essential and had a PS5, you just got them. So I have all those games still to this day because of that, but that wasn't enough. That wasn't the full answer to a catalog of games that is constantly rotating, including new stuff like Game Pass does. So that's their answer with the extra and premium tiers. And I do pay for PlayStation Plus Extra, and I'm really excited to play Animal Well. I've been playing games on it that we will be talking about on the podcast later that I'm really excited about. So that's been cool. I do think that there's just a little something missing. Like we talked about in the beginning of this episode, obviously they're putting more interest into including day one releases. They're not first party titles. They're being very clear about not doing that, but that could honestly be the missing ingredient. Some sort of compromise from Sony needs to happen. And I see them doing it with an increase in price to that premium tier. Because right now, if you pay like $2 more a month, whatever, for the premium tier compared to extra, a catalog of classic games is just not where it's at. Like that's great and all. That's really cool, but that's not what people are after. People want new games.
And that's like I said earlier, that's what's stopping me. I would have already subscribed to their premium version of their Game Pass or whatever. I would have done it already if they would just drop day and date with their first party.
Yeah.
And until they do that, I think there's going to be a lot of holdouts even within their own community.
No, for sure. Absolutely. It's definitely one of the things that's stopping me from upgrading to premium, because right now I'm getting enough from extra and I really have no reason to upgrade. Again, like you said, every single person out there has a different reason. There could be huge fanboys of the classic games and that was enough for them. Great. I'm happy for you. But if we're talking about stacking up to the other big two, so to speak, that's not enough. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do there, because when it comes to classic game catalogs, that's included on the Switch Online subscription, which we're about to take a huge dump on.
Get over here, Nintendo. Come here.
So obviously the online membership for the Switch is notoriously laughed at, but they know that it's not that Game Pass. It's not PlayStation Plus. It's very inexpensive for the lower tier. We have the premium version on there that's $4 a month, which is already laughably inexpensive. But we're about to do a big comparison here because the entry level is only less than $2 a month. And it's actually pretty good value. You can play online games if you need to play Smash Bros with your friends, Mario Kart, anything you play online, that's great. That's more than fair. And they already include a classic catalog of games. So then you talk about upgrading to their premium tier, and it's just like, Nintendo, like, what are you thinking? Like, what?
And just like PlayStation, I am also holding out on, listen, if it made sense, I'd get the premium versions for all three consoles. I own all three if it made sense. But like I said, PlayStation still doesn't make sense to me, so I'm not going to do it. And then Nintendo definitely doesn't make sense for me. I'd rather just stick with the online, just the multiplayer, and I'm good with NES, SNES games. Like I'm totally fine with that.
Yeah.
But the fact that they're hiding all of these premium classic games behind a subscription and you can't even buy them directly from them anymore, that turns me off in so many ways.
Yeah.
I feel that since the Wii, we were able to download virtual consoles and download all these classic
Yes.
games and play them at our leisure, not having to worry about having to keep a subscription on.
Right.
And here we are in 2024, and it's like you don't even have the option to buy them. That grinds my gears
Yes.
so hard, dude, so hard. And for what? Because you got tired of having people rebuy the same classic games over and over and over,
Right.
and you just wanted to like keep everybody on the hook. It's grimy, man. It's grimy, and I would be okay with this if they at least gave us the option to buy them and keep them for good. You know,
Right.
I don't know. I don't know what they would have done, but this ain't it. And to top it all off, their online games run on a potato. So
Yeah.
like playing Smash Bros on Switch Online is ridiculous, and to the point where like it kind of died down my love for Smash Ultimate, because it's like if you're not playing with friends and you're playing online, the game significantly just lags compared to most fighting games on the PlayStation and the Xbox.
Yeah.
They need to restructure their infrastructure and give us a better online experience in this coming console.
Absolutely. Yeah, this needs to be totally and completely revamped. And like you said, everybody's jumping on the subscription wagon, dude. It's gotten to the point where even when you pay for a PlayStation Plus subscription, you get included Ubisoft Plus Classic.
God.
And then when you get a Xbox Game Pass Ultimate or PC Game Pass, you get EA Play. And it's just like, bro, come on. Like, how many tiers of subscriptions do we need to actually have in order to just play a game? So, you know, that is another frustrating aspect to all of this. And it's going to be interesting to see. But let's talk just a little bit as we start to wrap up here. Like, the comparison of the environment that's going on. The last bit of information that we have about Game Pass subscriptions is the beginning of 2022, which granted, that is before we even had Starfield. That's before we had the acquisition of Activision Blizzard, which I'm sure this number has increased. But we were last told 25 million total Game Pass subscribers, which is everything, not just Ultimate.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's a respectable number already. I'm sure that's more, but I was really surprised to see that PlayStation Plus currently has 47 million subscribers, and apparently a vast majority, 70% of those, are the essential tier, which makes sense because if you're trying to play online games with friends, that's the one you need, and then you get some games included. That's enough to sell people, I would think, and it's very, very inexpensive compared to the other ones for what you get. So,
and ultimately it's a bigger fan base too. PlayStation, there are more PlayStation
Yes.
players than Xbox, so
In the
that
world.
number actually doesn't surprise me. What does surprise me is just how many people aren't subscribing to their higher tier outings. I thought it would be more than that, but like you said, it still just doesn't make sense for a lot of people until they drop those day and date first party. But they're extremely concerned, and they being Sony, PlayStation, that they will lose money in the long run doing that.
yes.
And they don't have that Microsoft backing that Xbox does in terms of revenue and capital they can use. Microsoft can take the blow for like multiple decades and not feel anything. Sony cannot do that.
Right.
So they're going to have to get creative to get those 33 million people that are in Essential and bring them over to that premium outing.
And I think that's kind of like what we were talking about earlier. There needs to be some sort of compromise because, yes, it's great that they're bringing third-party titles day and date to the subscription. That is awesome. We're still just not quite hitting the sweet spot. I will anticipate in the next year or two them making a massive overhaul to their subscription and a price increase. That's what I'm anticipating. So only time will tell. But tell me what your ranking would be if you had to put in order the health of the big three?
I would say at this current moment, I would probably place Xbox as number one in terms of health. They're coming into 2024 really well. They came in because it's 5 months in. They've come in really strong in 2024, hot off the heels of the Activision Blizzard deal going through. They're riding that high. Game Pass is looking healthier than ever. The subscriptions are going up, and now everyone's expectations of what they're going to do with Activision Blizzard, they have positioned themselves in a really good spot. That if they can only hit it and they can only just make it work and not fumble, they're going to continue in that number one spot in terms of health. They may not be first place in revenue, because I know that their console sales are down, but their gaming revenue is up because of this acquisition. But if they just keep it going, man, and they stay in this top spot, we'll see an Xbox that we haven't seen since the 360 era. It also depends on how Phil Spencer drives the ship and make sure that he doesn't crash it into some rocks on the bay there. So I think they're looking really healthy right now. Number two, I would say PlayStation is number two in terms of health. The reason I don't have them at number one, because it was close. It really was close. They're doing well with console sales, of course, but that seems to not matter as much these days because we're moving into the subscription-based landscape, and their 2024 lineup, it's pretty much non-existent. But that doesn't mean they don't have good games on their system. With Helldivers coming in and all these third-party support for their version of Game Pass, their premium outing is looking better and better and better. So if they can find a way to bring more people in with these third parties, since they're not going to use their first party, they could overtake Xbox in terms of their subscription. So they aren't in that position yet, but that doesn't mean they can't be in that position. And that's why I put them in second place. Xbox is in a position, Sony needs to get in that same position. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah.
And then number three,
so who would you put for third?
So number three, I have Sega. Their Dreamcast. Give me Dreamcast too. So number three, it has to be Nintendo. And number three, just because you're in last out of the three doesn't mean you're doing terrible. Their console sales continue to skyrocket. They continue to bring out good games like Princess Peach. But we're doing remakes now. We're at the end of the life cycle. They're giving us a remake of Thousand Year Door. They gave us a remake of Super Mario RPG. They gave us a remake of Metroid. It's like, it's just remake after remake after remake. And granted, Sony has also been doing somewhat of that as well.
Yes.
So we're looking at it, not even an age switch anymore. We just have a flat out old Switch. And all Nintendo needs to do is release the Switch 2 and give us some amazing games, and I could shoot them very much in the first place. I think it's anybody's race right now on who's the healthiest. But Nintendo needs to pick up the pace. They need to, at the bare minimum, start advertising the Switch 2, start hyping people up, because it is worrisome that we're in May and there hasn't been even a peep about it. Usually the hype cycle for a console is about a year to a year and a half. Like we normally know it pretty far in advance and everyone's anticipating, but because they want to continue to push out Switches, I think they're gonna have us waiting, and I wouldn't be surprised if they gave us a 6-month notice or even less before the Switch 2. So that's my ranking, but I'm actually curious to know what your ranking is.
So yeah, like you said, this is a very close one, and this is subjective, of course, when it comes to like what we consider health, right? So in my eyes, there's two ways that you can look at this, and it seems to me, I think that you kind of are going the route of like potential, right? So right now, I think that if you were to argue health being like potential, I would agree. Like Xbox has the most potential right now, but they earned it. They went through 2 years of legal battles in order to gain that potential. Now it's up to them to do something with it, but that is not substantial health. That is potential. And right now, Sony literally has a huge amount of potential health Is it anything that's even remotely going to potentially happen? No. They don't have an inkling that they're going to start dropping day and date exclusives and have all of their exclusives available on their subscriptions, but they have the potential. I would say right now, given how they have sold things, PlayStation, in my opinion, still has the most actual substance health as of right now. As of recording right now here on May 1st, they have the most substantial health, but that is very much about to change if they don't do something about it. And we're talking in the extreme near future. If this showcase goes the way that we're expecting it to from Xbox, this will turn around in the upcoming months. PlayStation needs to start working towards building their environment to compete with Game Pass. It's time. They've had more than enough time. They have the potential to make the change. They need to do something about it. There has to be an answer to this acquisition, and it needs to be soon. So I think that right now, like you said, it's very close. I think that PlayStation has a little bit more health of their health bar, so to speak, right?
Yeah.
But like Microsoft is about to take an absolute massive swing with the biggest like powered up freaking axe that you can think of in a video game. And PlayStation needs to be ready to move. They need to be ready to make a move. I don't even need to discuss Nintendo. They need to come out with the Switch 2, point blank. It's time. It has been time. That we should have it right now. These episodes should be talking about Switch 2 games. Point blank. Like no ifs, ands, or buts. We should already have it in our hands. We should already be talking about the hardware. We should already be talking about the games. It's time. So that's where we're at, man.
Ultimately, I think, and even based off what you're saying, how close the race is with Xbox and PlayStation, we're looking pretty good in the overall health of the gaming industry, with Nintendo being definitely the straggler at the end. But even with all that straggling, they're looking as healthy as ever. So I would say overall, it looks like the gaming community, the gaming world is looking healthy at this moment. Here's to hoping that there is no more crazy substantial changes in the coming months. But I think if we can keep the status quo for the most part, we'll have a good rest of the 2024 season and or year anyways. And hopefully by the end of this year, we'll have news for the Nintendo Switch 2. Game Pass will have the Activision Blizzard deal set in their catalog, and then PlayStation will expand their own catalog, and I think we'll be going really good into 2025.
Absolutely, bro. That's a great wrap up. And to all of our listeners out there, tell us what you think in the comments. But regardless of where your loyalty lies, we discussed the quote unquote console war because it drives gaming, and gaming is what drives us. With each console generation, there is new potential to share fun moments with friends. Each time these subscription services are expanded, there are new environments for us all to interact in and enjoy together. And that is what we're all about here at Lobby Up. Thanks for lobbying up with us today.
See you guys.